Hello everyone. Last time we have started with this chapter. We have completed till the Kohlrausch's law of independent migration of ions. We know the concept of conductivity and molar conductivity. Now we'll start with the measurement of conductivity. To understand measurement of conductivity, first we have to understand two terms, that is conductivity cell and cell constant. So here in this diagram, you can see a conductivity cell. The conductivity cell consists of a glass tube in which two plates of platinum is there, which is coated with a thin layer of finely divided platinum black. Now, this thing is achieved by the electrolysis of chloroplatinic acid. Okay, now the solution which you can see is the one whose resistance we have to measure. So this is the construction of what? The conductivity cell. Now next we'll understand about the cell constant. So the conductivity of an electrolytic solution is given by kappa is equal to 1 upon R L by A. Over here I have written 1 upon R. This is because from the conductivity cell I can get the value of resistance. Okay, so that's the reason I am writing 1 by R instead of capital G over here, that is the conductance. Okay, so the conductivity of an electrolytic solution is given by kappa is equal to 1 upon R L by A. Now for a given cell, the ratio of separation, that is the ratio of length of separation L between the two electrodes divided by the area of cross section A of the electrode is called the cell constant. That is, cell constant is what? L by A. Simple, cell constant is what? Always remember, it is the length of separation between the two electrodes divided by the area of cross section. Okay, so it is given by L by A. So the SI unit will be what? It will be meter inverse. So for conveniently it is expressed as what? Centimeter inverse. So the above equation will become as what? K is equal to 1 by R will remain same. So 1 by R into what is L by A now? L by A is the cell constant. Now cell constant we can measure it. Now if I know the resistance of a solution, the conductivity is easily calculated. So now we will see how to calculate the conductivity. Okay, so the determination of conductivity consists of three steps. They are: first one, determination of cell constant; second one, determination of conductivity of given solution; and the third one is calculation of molar conductivity. Okay, so we'll see each one in detail now. So the first step, determination of cell constant. The cell constant is determined by using the 1 molar or 0.1 molar or 0.01 molar KCl solution. The conductivity of KCl solution is already there in a tabulated form and it is at various temperature it is given. Okay, now you can see the diagram in the right hand side. There you can see a Wheatstone bridge is there and a conductivity cell is there and both are connected, right? So the Wheatstone bridge will help us to find out the resistance of the solution. Okay, so we'll understand in the Wheatstone bridge, AB is a uniform wire, Rx is the variable known resistance, and the conductivity cell containing KCl solution of unknown resistance is placed in the other arm. F is the sliding contact that moves along AB and AC is the alternating current. Okay, now the sliding contact, that is F, is moved along AB until no current flows. So the detector shows no deflection. That point is taken as C, the null point. Okay, so hopefully till here it is clear. Now according to Wheatstone bridge, it is very simple. We know that R solution upon length of AC is equal to Rx upon length of BC. Now from this thing I will get R solution. What is R solution? Resistance of the given solution. Okay, so R solution will be equal to length of AC upon length of BC into Rx, which is given in the equation. Now we know that cell constant is given by conductivity of KCl into R solution. Okay, now you know that conductivity of KCl solution will directly get from the tabulated column, and we have already found out the resistance of the solution from here. So the cell constant can be determined easily. Okay, hopefully you understood how to determine the cell constant value. Simple, by using Wheatstone bridge. Wheatstone bridge you are going to learn in detail in physics. Okay. Second step is determination of conductivity of given solution. Now in the first step we have taken KCl solution of unknown resistance. So I just have to replace that solution by the given solution, that means of which I want to find out the conductivity. Okay, so from the first step, similar way I'll do everything. Instead of that solution, I am going to replace it with the solution of which I want to find out the conductivity. Okay, so KCl solution in the conductivity cell in step 1 is replaced by the given solution whose conductivity is to be measured. So the conductivity of a given solution is calculated as kappa is equal to cell constant upon R solution. Cell constant we got it from the first step where we have used KCl solution. Okay, now we will see the third step, the calculation of molar conductivity. Once you got the conductivity value, it is very simple for us to calculate the molar conductivity value. We can directly use this formula, that is lambda is equal to 1000 into kappa upon C. So by using this formula we are able to find out the molar conductivity of the given solution. Hopefully you understood this thing. Now we will start with electrochemical cell, which is very important. First we'll understand what is electrochemical cell. It consists of two metal plates or carbon rods. Carbon rods are also called as graphite rods. These electronic conductors, okay, these are nothing but conductors, are dipped in electrolytic or ionic conductor. Okay, now in this thing, this electrochemical cells involve some chemical reaction which involves transfer of electron from one species to the other, and electrochemical cells contains some electrochemical reaction, that is the redox reactions are occurred in electrochemical cells. So they are made up of oxidation and reduction half reaction. Okay, and the two plates which we dip is said to be the electrodes along with the solution. Okay, so there are two types of electrode, cathode and anode. Cathode is the electrode in which reduction takes place. Reduction half reactions are taken place in cathode, and anode is the place where oxidation takes place. So again remember, anode and cathode are the two electrodes. Anode is oxidation and cathode is reduction. Just remember these words, anox. So anode oxidation and cathode is reduction. Okay, which is very important for us to understand the problems, everything. Okay, now we will see the types of electrochemical cells. So there are two types of electrochemical cell. They are electrolytic cell and galvanic cell. Understand the main difference between electrolytic cell and galvanic cell is the conversion of energy. In electrolytic cell, the electrical energy is converted into chemical energy, and in case of galvanic cell, the chemical energy is converted into electrical energy. This is the main difference between electrolytic cell and galvanic cell. Rest, like at anode, in both the things oxidation will take place. At cathode, what will happen? Reduction will take place. Now this electrochemical cell in general have two half cells. Both the things, electrolytic cell as well as galvanic cell, has what? two half cells. Each half cell consists of electrode and an electrolyte. The two half cells may have same or different electrolyte. So if it is having same electrolyte, we will use only one beaker. If it is having different electrolyte, then we'll have two beakers. Okay, so hopefully you understood this. So once again we'll just revise this. Electrolytic cell, electrical energy converted into chemical energy. And over here please understand, anode is oxidation, but over here it will be positive. Cathode is reduction, but over here it is negative. And second one, galvanic cell, or it is also called as voltaic cell. There chemical energy is converted into electrical energy. Over here the main difference is anode is taken as negative and cathode is taken as positive. Hopefully you will remember this. Okay. Now we will see the distinguishing point between electrolytic and galvanic cell. So first is electrolytic cell, then galvanic cell will write. First point, an electric current drives a non-spontaneous reaction. As we know, the electric energy is converted into chemical energy. So by the passage of electric current, the reaction occurs. So therefore it is a non-spontaneous reaction. And in case of galvanic cell, a spontaneous chemical reaction generates electric current. Second point, similar to that, electrical energy is converted into chemical energy. And in case of galvanic cell, chemical energy is converted into electrical energy. Third point, in case of electrolytic cell, anode is positive and cathode is negative. And in case of galvanic cell, anode is negative and cathode is positive. Fourth point, oxidation occurs at positive electrode in case of electrolytic cell, and oxidation occurs at negative electrode in case of galvanic cell. Understand, in both the cases the oxidation occurs at anode. Only the difference is the sign is different. Over here in electrolytic cell, anode is positive, and in case of galvanic cell, anode is negative. So the fifth point, reduction occurs at negative electrode, and in case of galvanic cell, reduction occurs at positive electrode. Okay. Sixth point, the electrons are forced by the battery to flow non-spontaneously from positive electrode to negative electrode through external circuit. And in case of galvanic cell, the electrons flow spontaneously through external circuit from negative electrode to positive electrode. Now from here we can understand that why anode is positive in case of electrolytic cell and negative in case of galvanic cell. See, in general, always we remember that anode is positive and cathode is negative because the flow of electrons is in that manner. But in case of galvanic cell, the electrons are generated in the anode compartment. Therefore, we mark anode as negative. Hopefully you understood this. The last point, seventh one, they are used for electroplating, electrorefining in case of electrolytic cell, and they are used as a source of electric current in case of galvanic cell. So hopefully you understood. Please do remember this distinguishing points. Okay. So now we'll see electrolytic cell. Electrolytic cell consists of a container in which electrolyte is placed. In that, two electrodes are immersed and then connected to a source of direct current. Now, at anode, a species oxidizes with the removal of electrons, and this electrons then passes from the anode and goes to the cathode, and where it gives the electron to other species, and that species gets reduced. So this is how it works. Now we will see the electrolysis of molten NaCl. Now similar to that thing, first thing is we will be taking the electrolyte in the beaker. Now which is the electrolyte over here? Fused NaCl is the electrolyte, that is the melted NaCl. Okay, and in that two graphite rods are dipped which is connected to a battery through a metallic wire. Now the carbon electrode connected to positive terminal of the battery is the anode, and that connected to the negative terminal will be the cathode. Hopefully you understood till here. So this was the construction of the cell. Okay, once the construction is completed, now we will see the reaction occurring in the cell, that is at anode and at cathode. So you know that at anode what will happen? Oxidation will take place, and at cathode reduction will take place. So at anode, that is oxidation, what will happen? What is going to get oxidized? Cl minus is going to get oxidized. So you can see the first reaction. 2Cl minus will go to Cl, 2Cl plus 2 electrons. That means removal of electrons will take place. Okay, so now how you can understand whether it is oxidation? Cl was having -1 charge. When it went to Cl, it is neutral. So -1 to 0. So increase in the oxidation number. So we can say it is oxidation. Okay, so the primary process, hopefully you understood. Second step, whatever Cl is made, that will convert it into Cl2 gas. That is the secondary process. So when we combine both the primary and the secondary process, we will get the overall reaction at anode. Okay, that means overall oxidation. So what will be the end product? So 2Cl minus will give Cl2 plus 2 electrons. Okay, now at cathode what will happen? So now the electron from the anode has traveled to cathode. That means this cathode will give electrons to the other species. Which is that other species over here? That is the Na plus ion. So Na plus ion will accept electron and it will form Na. So hopefully you understood the reaction occurring in the cell. Always remember, at the end the charges should be balanced. That means if the reactant side is neutral, the other side should be neutral. Okay, see over here in the reduction cell, Na plus electron, so plus and minus gets 0. So over there in the product side it is Na neutral atom. Okay, so always see to it that the reaction is balanced at the end. Okay, now we will see the net cell reaction, where the electrode reactions, that is at anode and at cathode, will be added together. So the first reaction which you can see over here is the oxidation half reaction. Second is the reduction half reaction. Okay, now in the reduction half reaction we have multiplied by 2. Why we have multiplied by 2? So that the electrons can be cancelled. Okay, so at the end I can say 2 electrons will get cancelled, and I will get the overall cell reaction as 2Na plus 2 electrons will give me 2Na plus Cl2. Okay, hopefully you understood this thing. Now we will see the result of electrolysis of molten NaCl. What will be the result of electrolysis of molten NaCl? Result means what is the end product. So it will be solid Na and Cl2 gas. So the result of electrolysis of molten NaCl is, first one, a pale green Cl2 gas is released at anode, and second one, a molten silvery white sodium is formed at cathode. So hopefully you understood this thing. Now we will see the electrolysis of aqueous NaCl. Okay, aqueous NaCl, where water will be also there along with NaCl. Okay, so similar to electrolysis of molten NaCl, the arrangement will be same, only the electrolyte which is used over here will be aqueous solution of NaCl. Okay, now when we take aqueous NaCl, that means water will also take place in oxidation as well as reduction. So in each of the step, that is at anode as well as cathode, there will be two reactions taking place simultaneously, which will be competing at anode and at cathode. Okay, so we'll see the reaction at cathode. So one of the reaction will be reduction of Na plus ions, as in the case of molten NaCl. Okay, and this other reaction will be the reduction of water to hydrogen gas. Okay, now from this thing, which will actually happen at cathode will be decided by the standard potential for water as well as sodium ion. Okay, so when we see the value, that is E naught value, okay, for Na plus is equal to minus 2.71 volt, and for that of water is equal to minus 0.83 volt. So when we compare both the values, which value is greater? The value for the reduction of water to H2 is greater, right? Because negative in negative, smaller value will be greater. Okay, so which will produce at cathode? The second reaction will proceed. Now we'll see the reaction at anode. What will happen at anode? Oxidation will take place, right? Over here also there will be two reactions competing with each other. One will be the oxidation of Cl minus ion to Cl2 gas, as in case of molten NaCl, and the second will be the oxidation of water to oxygen gas. So over here, when we compare, similar to the cathode reaction, over here we will be comparing the standard potential of oxidation of Cl minus and of water. Okay, so when we compare both the values, so first one is for Cl minus, it is not equal to minus 1.36 volt, and for water it is minus 0.4 volt. Okay, from when we compare, which one is greater? The smaller will be greater, right? So water should proceed at anode, but when experimentally we see, or when experimentally it was observed, that is not the case. At anode, Cl2 gas is liberated. So what is the reason this is not getting water, oxygen is not getting liberated? The reason over here is because of the over voltage which is required for the second reaction. Okay, so over here, which reaction will proceed? First reaction will proceed, that is Cl minus getting converted to Cl2 gas. Now we will see the net reaction. What will be the net reaction? We have to add both the reaction at cathode and at anode. Which reactions we will be adding over here? For at cathode, we will take the reduction of water to H2, and at anode we will be taking the oxidation of Cl minus to Cl2 gas. So this two reaction will be added to get the overall reaction of the cell. So when the reactions at anode and at cathode are added, we will get the overall cell reaction. So the overall cell reaction is equal to 2Cl minus plus 2H2O will give me Cl2 plus H2 plus 2OH minus. Now we will see the result of electrolysis of aqueous NaCl. What is the result of electrolysis of aqueous NaCl? That means we have to see the product what is formed over here. So it is very simple. I can say Cl2 gas is liberated, H2 gas is liberated, and OH minus is there in the medium, and as well as Na plus is there in the medium, okay, which is not getting reduced at anode. So the solution which we have taken was NaCl, but at the end of the reaction the solution will be NaOH solution, which is left out. Okay, so once again, the result of electrolysis of aqueous NaCl: H2, first one, H2 gas is liberated at cathode. Second one, Cl2 gas is released at anode. Third one, because Na plus ions remain unreacted and OH minus are formed at cathode, NaCl solution is converted to NaOH solution. So when we compare the electrolysis of molten NaCl and aqueous NaCl, the product of electrolysis is different. When it was molten NaCl, the product was molten silvery white sodium at cathode and Cl2 gas at anode. Over here, there are three things: H2 gas which is liberated at cathode, Cl2 gas which is released at anode, and NaOH solution is formed at the end. Hopefully you understood everything. So next time we'll continue with the quantitative aspects of electrolysis. Okay then, bye.